Okay. One aspect that makes a very big difference in the attitude of the seeker of truth is the fact that he has the mind of the one who is learning. And for one to learn something, well, it's because he doesn't know it. But what does this imply? Well, it implies that he needs an open mind. And it is very difficult to have an open mind if it is filled with opinions, beliefs. So it is something fundamental in the seeker of truth path, because it makes the difference between a living process and a dead process. So there's this attitude which is quite more common, and it is a mind which is learning, studying things. It is bringing informations, input, analyzing, questioning. And this is not the correct posture. You see, all knowledge must be tested to see what it really is. So teachings, they have to be tested in practical terms, not in theoretical terms, in practical terms. Because if it is being filtered by your mind, by your beliefs, by your vision, then it is conditioned to, well, whatever suits your narrative will remain, whatever doesn't suit your narrative will be put aside. And this is not how you test it. You have to test it in yourself, abstracting yourself of your beliefs about what is being taught. Because if you don't, you will not see the real value of the teaching. The mindset of a seeker of well-being is gathering more information, more input, understanding more. This is the main aspect. The seeker of truth is looking for ways, tools to break his own knowledge, his own ideas, his own vision. He is trying to silence the mind, to make it pure, silent, still, emptying all the garbage he has been accumulating. Worldly garbage, spiritual garbage, doesn't matter. Emptying it so that silence prevails. So these are two different mindsets. Theoretical knowledge, spiritual theoretical knowledge comes from practice of a seeker of truth. And it is then compiled in different ways to bring some clarity to others, not to replace the actual practice. So to read spiritual books, well, depending on what it is, it may be useful, but it's not spiritual practice. It doesn't replace spiritual practice in any way. And if there's real value in the words, besides that which you can test and should test directly, the real value must be in what has brought those words, what has materialized those words, the one who was behind those words, or that which is behind those words, depending on what it is. It can be the teachings of a master, it can be the teachings of a holy scripture. But to tune with this lies the real benefit, not to understand it really. That is secondary. Because mind can only perceive that which is more or less into his own boundaries. It has a limit. But that tuning with these higher frequencies, higher consciousness, opens up the boundaries of your mind. And that is what allows the vision to increase. It's not by the exercise of the analytical mind. Because by the exercise of analytical mind, what is more important doesn't get touched, you cannot touch it. Because the attitude is not there. And this part is very easy, this studying, learning new things. The mind loves it, doesn't matter what it is. It is input, 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 input. Feeding its structures, feeding it with noise. Better noise, worse noise, just noise. And if you understand, if you can grasp, fundamentally all spiritual teachings point towards silence, emptying the mind. So filling it constantly, does it really points into that direction of silence? So the spiritual teaching, more or less, is about how to do the practice. Then practice has to begin. And it is in the practice that all learning comes. But the attitude has to be in the right place. And it doesn't matter if it seems that nothing is happening, or if it seems that you're just this close. It doesn't make much of a difference. You may think that it does if you're comparing things, but it really doesn't. So there's this expression that says to become childlike. And the vision of these teachings through the eyes of a child. No judgment, like it's the first time I'm seeing things. And practice, practice. Then you'll see. Because your attitude determines what you can see. It's not, you see, it's not the practice in itself that determines what you'll see. It's the attitude, your inner attitude towards the practice, your motivations towards the practice. That is what makes the difference. And in this sense, as you are progressing with that attitude, intensifying your spiritual practices, your meditation, doubts will be there. Not doubts about the house, maybe, but fruit from the difficulties that you are encountering in your practice. Not doubts in the confusions that you are making with your mind. Because reading and having a conversation is very difficult. It's very difficult for someone to really listen to another. It's very difficult for someone to read something in the same way as the one who has written it. Almost impossible. Almost. It would require a very strong connection between the one who is reading and the one who has written. They would be on the same page, more or less, but a very strong connection. Without it, what you're reading is what you can, according to your level of understanding. Conversation follows the same. So there are the doubts that come from the confusions that you are making because of your misunderstanding. And there's the confusion that comes, there's the difficulties that comes, the doubts that come from your actual spiritual work, from intensifying your spiritual practices, meditation. And whatever spiritual philosophy, if it is serious, it is always pointing towards silence. At the end of the day, it is about silence only. And the more you learn, the more you fill your mind more you will have to put out, to empty. And this emptying the mind, silencing the mind, it is about taking the blocks that the mind uses to build your reality, what you call your reality. Silence dissolves those blocks. That reality becomes thinner and thinner, weaker and weaker. As to mental learning brings new construction materials. So instead of unbuilding, I don't know if that word exists, but okay. Instead of dissolving those structures, you are feeding it with new materials. So you make what you call your reality more sophisticated. You adapt it to the new knowledge, to the new vision. And it doesn't matter if illusion is, in theory, equal to truth, apparently, or if it is far away. It doesn't matter. Illusion is illusion. So this mental thirst for spiritual knowledge, it is about adapting your reality, transforming it. And you can see this very easily. Those who come into spirituality, they usually tend to change the way they dress, the way they speak, adapting all aspects, the character, to this, not collective, but to the group's vision of where it is standing into that philosophy. That is, adapting their reality. And what is the gain in this? Well, there can be a gain. There can be, because if it is replacing old structures, more solid, more dense ones, but for the purpose of throwing this away also, not for the purpose of replacing the older structures. But this is usually what happens. There's a replacement of old realities with new ones. Same old, same old. The mind will want to mimic truth because it wants to survive. It wants to be in control. So this is why awakening is about silence. Not any kind of silence. It is a silence where the heart is full of devotion for the divine, and the mind is full of reverence towards it. So it is resting on sacredness. Completely focused on this, absorbed into this, nothing else. There are those of you who practice meditation to improve mental skills. That's really not understanding the thing. But that happens. Mind becomes strong also, a different kind of strength. The challenge always steps up. So this is why, or another reason for practice to overcome intensely this theoretical exercise. In the end, it is all about silence, reverence, and devotion. And the curious mind, it is very difficult to have reverence. It's like the one who doesn't know he's in a temple. He just walks in with his shoes on, dirtying and messing everything up. He doesn't know. This is the mind, the curious aspect of the mind, the analytical mind. So he goes through the wisdom, chewing it and spitting it out. So he's taking the worst parts of it and throwing away the gold, not even touching it. If it is information, then what's the point of touching it? If it is wisdom, divine knowledge, then the attitude must be different. So you see, every teaching brings an opportunity. But these opportunities are very difficult to receive, to embrace, because they get adapted, twisted, transformed the minute they reach you. So the opportunity lies in your transformation. And this is usually what takes longer. And it's interesting that most seekers, they look at spiritual teachings in a sense that, well, if it's getting more sophisticated, it is good. Simple, it isn't. I see this a lot. Seekers judging the teaching by its complexity. Oh, that is very intelligent, so that must be good. Oh, that is just common words. Well, the progression of wisdom is from complexity to simplicity. The progression into delusion is from simplicity to complexity. So the more you are advancing, whatever that means, more simple things become. You'll be able to see the wisdom behind simplicity. And you'll be surprised how simple it was. How simple it is. And you'll see clearly that before you couldn't take that simplicity. It was too simple to be true. It cannot be that. This is what the mind tells. Because it survives of complexity. But to remain, to entertain, to adapt your illusion, the mind will always go after that which is more complex, more elaborate. It has to be something more difficult. This is how it feeds itself and maintains its own structures. And then, of course, you find yourself with abundance in knowledge, but no wisdom. No real wisdom. Because if you don't know who you are, well, saying this today has a lot of meanings for different seekers, because everybody knows more or less who they are. So if you're not self-realized, you know nothing yet. If you hold on to this concept, it may help you a lot. Instead of going to these ideas and analyzing and judging, you will know that you don't know anything. And you will put things into test without just input, 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 input. The real journey starts with output, output, output. And that doesn't mean making input towards others. It is about emptying your stock. So in the beginning, spiritual teachings, they are complex in nature. Practices, meditation practices. Because, well, if they are not in that way, mind will not be interested. So it is a way of attracting the mind into that. But as maturity dawns, the direction will be towards simplicity, more simplicity. And knowledge is like any other power, different than wisdom. Sometimes they are mistaken one by the other, but they are very different. Knowledge makes you more arrogant, more closed, more intoxicated, more deluded. So usually seekers are after the best meditation practice, the best philosophy, the best one, something that will make the difference. And they take a long time to understand that. That's not what makes the difference. It is their attitude, their motivations that need to change. And that is what makes the difference. And if your heart is not full of reverence, if it has none, then you're spiritually dead. So any reading that is worthwhile, it should be done with the right attitude. Especially after meditation, with that attitude, not attitude, with that mindset of meditation. Should be done in the same posture as meditation, same attitude as meditation, and in that meditation state mood. And if it is a scripture, there's no point wasting time trying to understand what is there. Just reading it and letting it go through your mind as water that runs down your body. That is the way you'll take the best out of it. Information is not the most valuable good. It is not. That which may assist information is the most valuable good. By getting the words, you don't access it, only with the right attitude. And this is what takes longer. Okay. So for today, it is all. Next satsang will be Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Until then, well, you may use your time and question what you've been doing. If that attitude is there, if reverence is there, and if you're moving towards simplicity, if your mind is enjoying more simplicity or more complexity, you can take a lot of points from this, from these words. Or you can just forget about it. You choose. But